This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Mike MATKER, co-founder of SiteVibes. Welcome to the E-commerce Edge podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My absolute pleasure. It's very exciting to have you along for the ride with me today. And before we get into SiteVibes and talk about all things e-commerce, retention platform, customer journey experience platform, why don't you tell us how you came to be in this space of e-commerce? You've been doing it for a long time, all the way back, senior solution specialist with Rock Commerce. You were also working with Hawk Search. Like, you've got a deep background in this e-commerce thing, but how did you get into it? What's your origin story?
Yeah, great question. So I actually started working with my dad way back in 2012. So he had a business that was in the e-commerce space. They were reselling a product called Endeca, which way
I'm
back in
very
the day
familiar
was a
with.
very popular search product. So they would sell a
Famously
hosted
worked with
version of
Home
it.
Depot, and that was probably one of
The
the biggest ever clients on the Endeca platform.
I think there's still some customers today that still use Endeca, probably just have teams of people that know how to manage and maintain it themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if they might even still be one of those people using it. But yeah, I started my journey there selling kind of a hosted version of Endeca, which also included services, and fell in love with the industry and the space. And I feel like I could say I've seen it evolve many times over. But yeah, I haven't left it since joining.
Wow, what a journey. And I guess those of us that I've been in the industry for 26 years now. It's my 26th year doing this thing. So I've been doing it since 2000. And there's not that many of us that have multiple decades worth of experience, but it tends to suck us in and hold us. I just can't imagine, for me personally, doing anything else. I love waking up, doing what I do every single day. Still have as much passion for it today, maybe even more, especially in the age of AI, than I did when I first started out in my career. Has it been true for you? Obviously, you've stayed in it this long, and you've become a founder of a platform that services the e-commerce industry. So you must love it.
I love it. It changes so fast and it's evolving every day. And like you said, with AI and all of the fun things that are coming with that. And again, I've seen the evolution of platforms and companies and businesses and how people operate online. And it's just so fascinating. And I tell everyone that I talk with, e-commerce is way more than just putting something in your cart and clicking buy. For someone that hasn't been in the industry, there are so many pieces behind the scenes that work to actually make that occur and get a product from a warehouse to your doorstep that you don't even understand. And I think that's where all the joy comes from. Yeah, I love every minute of it. I thinking about it all the time. I'm building a platform to try and solve some of these complexities that we've seen other people run into. Yeah, I can't see myself doing anything else ever.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I still, to this day, it blows my mind that still sometimes when I tell people I'm an e-commerce consultant, I work in the e-commerce industry, and they go, "What's that? What do you do?" And it's, "Oh,
Yeah,
I help people sell stuff online." And it's, "Oh, okay." Then they can, like, when you boil it down to somebody who's not associated with the industry at all, they don't know our terminology, they don't know our lingo, they don't know what's involved, they don't understand the technology, they're just not in this world at all. When you just put it really super simply, I help people sell stuff online. Like,
yep.
when you put it like, that's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We help them be successful and sell their products.
Yeah, and why overcomplicate it, right?
Yep.
That's ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here. I've worked exclusively in the B2B e-commerce space for the last 6 years. For the first half of my career, I was very focused on retail e-commerce, and then for the latter half of my career, very focused on B2B e-commerce, which has a whole lot more complexity and nuance to it than retail e-commerce tends to. But let's talk a little bit about SiteVibes. How did SiteVibes come to be? In all transparency with the audience, I've never worked with you before. I've never used the SiteVibe platform before, so I'm going by what's on the tin. It's a customer retention technology platform, and it's an all-in-one platform: loyalty, product reviews, email marketing, social proof, all in one platform. I guess
Yep.
if I had to put you into a bucket, Martech platform would be the bucket I'd put you in, and maybe something along the lines of a Yotpo would be a similar platform that maybe people have heard of before.
Yep.
But when you started your platform technology and you looked out there across the e-commerce landscape, you've been doing this for nearly 7 years now. Because 7 years ago there were already retention platforms, there already were Martech platforms out there. When you looked out across the landscape of what was happening in e-commerce, what made you decide to build something different?
Yeah, so it's an awesome question. And I think it boils down to truly consolidation. So when we started building the product, at the time, it was still very separate technologies. I think we were just starting to get into that acquisition phase where a lot of the companies that were doing just a single thing were starting to acquire other tech solutions to have as part of their portfolio. And I was just with my background being at Endeca, watching what Oracle was doing and the story that they told. I had spent some time doing consulting and actually building out websites. So I was able to firsthand see what it was like to say, okay, we have to put in a review solution and an email solution and a loyalty solution. And we got to make sure these things are communicating or talking to each other and the integrations behind that. And it felt like there was this opportunity to say, okay, they all are intended to do the same thing, right? We want to retain our customers, we want to drive engagement, we want to make sure people are coming back, we want to make sure they're staying up to date. And at the time, even the ones that had more than one thing, it was done through acquisition. So it was still separate dashboards. It was still disjointed customer data. It was still creating integrations in some cases. So although you're like, hey, I'm getting something that's doing everything, I'm like, why do I still have to connect it behind the scenes? That doesn't seem to make sense. And it just felt like that's where people were shifting, right? They wanted to do more with less technology, especially as teams started to become smaller. So they had one or two people now managing some of these programs versus five or six people managing it. So they didn't have to jump from dashboard to dashboard if they didn't have to remember to maintain these integrations. And that's when we started building. So in 20, I think COVID also helped accelerate that. That's when we actually started development of the product. I've got a co-founder and a CTO who used to be at Power Review. So he was in that space, someone that I worked with previously. And it just felt like the right time to say, hey, let's just do it from the ground up. We're not going to go and buy different things. We're going to really unify this behind the scenes, not just putting it in a single platform, but making sure the data component of it was unified. And I guess now we could say the rest is history. We've been doing it now for a few years. So we started building the product in 20, had some versions in 21 that were out there. 23 was when it was really ready to go, prime time, everything, and onboarding customers to today. But yeah, it's been a fun and a wild journey, but it's been really exciting to see the feedback and just hear, especially the customers that have used other tools, whether it be one single tool or three or four other tools, and how it's not only improved their team's workflows, but just the all the other things that come with less technology sitting on a website, right? So when we're talking to someone that cares about things like performance, better just as well as I do, the more apps that you have, the slower your site speed is going to be, or the slower this is going to be because there's just more things loading. So it's been that kind of feedback that's been really exciting for us to hear and the success that our customers are seeing.
And I think to your point, we've seen this across multiple different segments of commerce enablement software, broadly speaking. I think that there's obviously core commerce platforms like your Shopify's of the world. And then we have commerce enablement platforms and technologies, which is what I like to bucketize everything that's not the core shopping cart, that's outside of that core platform. I consider commerce enablement, and certainly retention is a retention communication. MarTech fits in that bucket. And we've already seen, I think, some element of consolidation across lots of different groupings of software in commerce enablement. I remember days when search, merch, and personalization were three different pieces of technology, right? We had
Yep.
the Nostos of the world, we had the Fred Hoppers of the world, we had enterprise search platforms, we had dynamic menuing platforms, and then we had the pure product recommendation platforms that were putting product panels on PLPs, PDPs, cart, and that those three segments of software have already largely combined. That's why Nosto acquired an enterprise search platform. And what we see is we tend to see logical groupings of software that should and historically have needed to share data with each other, right? So obviously, if I'm going to make a product recommendation, I need to know which pages you visited. I need to know which products you're interested in. I need to understand the attributes of those products. I need to know what products you're searching for in the search bar. I need to know what products you've added to your cart or abandoned. I need to know which products have been added to a product comparison panel. I need to know like your order history. Like I need to know all in order for each one of those individual pieces of technology to work as completely in a personalized way as they should. They need to share data across those. And historically, the way that's been done is through very complex deep integrations, right? I remember the days when you had to custom integrate your enterprise search platform with your enterprise, product recommendation or personalization platform, and you had to then custom integrate that with anything dynamic on the website. You had to I was still working in retail at that time, and I was a retail e-commerce manager. And I remember when I implemented Nosto for the very first time, it was like a 3-month integration project on its own, just to get Nosto integrated into our BigCommerce website. And so I think there is this effort at consolidation in the industry where there is this natural affinity between components of the commerce stack that makes sense. They should have always lived together. They should have probably always been developed together.
100%. And I think even now with the shift to agentic and AI, and it's such a buzz, right? Everyone's talking about it and everyone's going there, but AI is only ever going to be as good as the data. And again, people have been talking about data, whether it's for site search solutions, whether it's for platforms, whether it's for anything. Everyone talks about the data. But if you truly, in my opinion, want to make the most of AI and really push the boundaries, the more data that you could centralize in single systems, the more powerful those are going to be because it's all about the context. And it's not just the product data, it's all the customer data, it's all the behaviors that customer is taking, and how do we actually fit that into what it is that we're doing now. So now we're doing a marketing campaign. If AI is going to help you, if it has no context on who the customer is and you're just doing a general email campaign, it's probably just going to give you general and generic results, or it's just going to spit out what you want it to hear. So I do think it does make, and again, the whole reason we built our platform was there was this natural synergy between the products that we offer, where they traditionally were separated into these different platforms and you could push and pump data into one, but it's like, who becomes the truth then? Who the other platforms that we're using to do these other things, who are they going to get that data from if it has to have that level of data sharing, versus, okay, we now know everything is here and we can do everything that we want to do from this one single tool. And if it needs to still integrate or push to other systems, we can now do that through APIs, through other services that we've enabled to make sure that it could truly go across the enterprise.
And I guess for you guys, you consider yourself a post-click platform, right? Like not necessarily purely post-purchase, but certainly post-click that got someone to a given digital property, right?
Yeah, we're going to primarily live right on the site. Post, they're going to get to a page, they're going to start interacting with SiteVibes, but we are primarily interacting with them once they physically are in a site. They haven't necessarily needed to make a purchase yet, but we're not interacting with them outside of that.
And how far away do you think we are, based on what you know today, how far away do you think we are from the traditional paradigm of current website, e-commerce specific website UI UX, where we have a homepage, we've got a category page, we've got a product page, we've got a cart page, we've got a checkout page. Like those are the standard pages and that's the standard journey, right? We typically would have people either landing on our homepage, or if they're coming from a campaign, then they're probably landing on maybe a PDP or a PLP with specific products curated for that specific promotion or campaign. But I feel like, and I've talked about this for a very long time, that the paradigm needs to probably change quite substantially, because the reality is that e-commerce was modeled on effectively the first, if we look back about 140 years ago, I think was the first Sears and Roebuck mail order catalog that was sent out, right, to customers. That was really, and mail order was early e-commerce. That's effectively what it was. You picked out items from your catalog, you folded it up, you put it in an envelope, maybe you put a check in there, you sent it off to Sears and Roebuck, and then they sent you your stuff. Sure, it was a snail mail version of e-commerce, but it was a way of abstracting out the storefront, the physical storefront, from the commerce journey. That's what Sears did, and that's what effectively e-commerce does. It abstracts out the physical experience from the buying journey, and it tries to present it in some novel, unique way. It was initially paper, now it's digital, but I think, and that led very naturally and synergistically into the Google search experience, because now we had millions of e-commerce websites popping up, and even being able to identify, find, be able to one of my very first bosses in this industry said, without Google, you having an e-commerce website was like you walking down the footpath. You have these two giant skyscraper buildings next to you on the footpath, and there's a 6-inch gap between two buildings, and there's a massive giant ass billboard on one of those buildings, but you can't freaking see the thing. Like you look down the crack and you can see that there's a billboard there, but you can't actually see what's on the billboard. You have no idea what the billboard says. And that's what it felt like in the early days, pre Google, when it unified kind of the web and made everything hyper searchable and hyper contextually relevant, that changed search forever. That changed e-commerce forever, right? And some would argue for the better, some would argue for the worse, maybe latterly, but for good or for bad, it changed search forever. It changed the web experience forever. I think we are witnessing, just based on my pattern recognition of watching mobile, the rise of mobile, watching all these evolutions of tech and the trends that follow them over the last 26 years, AI, chatbots, LLMs, particularly over the last 2.5 years specifically, they're changing the way we interact with the web to the point where it feels like AI interfaces are going to be the new generation of the internet. And so I wonder how far we are away from a time when just as Google trained shoppers to come to an e-commerce website and use the enterprise search bar, I feel like
Yep.
chat interfaces are causing people to expect to interface with a chat interface where when they come to an e-commerce website now, instead of having all these navigation links and have to figure out where my account is and having to choose between category navigation, contextual navigation, site search. Okay, cool. Now I need to make a return. How do I figure out where to make my return? These chat interfaces that are contextual in nature and long form in nature and conversational in nature, it feels like it is fundamentally changing the expectation around the way consumers interact with the web.
100%. That is, and I think where the people are going to win is making sure that if they're going to launch an experience like that, it's not half baked. I think we've even seen it ourselves. There's a lot of products that are out there that are AI this, AI that, we're doing this, but it's still very hyper focused on whatever that core platform was doing. So it's,
Yep.
hey, we're an AI search company, but when you look behind the scenes, you're like, you're still just search. You're not really changing how people are searching for products. You're not changing things about attributes. You're not changing this or that. And I do agree that there will be this consumer base that almost exclusively lives in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever their AI of choice is, and they're going to say, "Hey, I want to be able to go to my or favorite commerce site, start having a conversation with an agent, and it's going to know all the products that I like. It's going to know how many loyalty points I have. It's going to know if I have any promotions or offers that are available. It's going to be able to recommend products that it thinks I might be interested in, and they are going to engage with those, in my opinion, way more than they're engaging with other more traditional or what has been traditional ways of navigating a site. But I think for most brands, it's okay, what's the right way to think of AI and what's the right way to think of how do we implement this? Because if we're just implementing single point solutions that are AI and they're focused only on maybe product discovery, but it's taking in no context of you, Jason, and the things that you like or the things you've looked at or the 10 years of previous purchase history that you might have, then you're just a search solution that is now presented in a chatbot. And I think that's going to be the exciting evolution that we see in the way that brands implement that is going to be exciting. And there's things that we're doing on our side with our product. And again, centralization of data is a huge piece for us. So yes, we have all of these awesome tools that from a consumer's perspective, I'm part of the loyalty program. From a merchant's perspective, we have a really easy way to manage our loyalty and our product reviews and our email strategy. But again, it's the underlying data of we know every little thing that Jason's doing on a website, the times you're converting your points, the times you're looking at products and not buying, and then when you come back and actually do make that purchase, and how do you take that context and actually use it to power a really powerful assistant. And I think you're going to see more brands doing that and more software companies doing that, but it's going to be the ones that are thinking of the data in the right perspective.
Yeah, and I also think that there's going to be a transition, right? There's going to be a transition period where there's probably going to be an intermediate period for 1 to 3 years where when you come to websites, you'll have the option. Initially, you'll have the option of a traditional interface and a pure chat interface, and you'll be able to select between those. And maybe when you land on the site, you'll initially have the traditional interface that everybody knows and understands, but there'll be, hey, switch to the chat first interface, and then you'll effectively, the most of the screen is going to disappear except for maybe some branding and some styling, and you're going to be interfacing with effectively a chatbot agent, and it's going to have all the context of you, it's going to have all the data about you, and you're going to tell it what you're looking to achieve in that session, whether it's a return,
Exactly.
whether it's a product search that's based on the context of what you're buying for, is an event, whatever it might be, and you're going to have this very conversational experience with the website. And then I think after that, we'll probably have a window of time where the traditional interface will still be available, but the default interface when you arrive will be chat. And that will just be the interface that you talk to when you arrive at an e-commerce website. And then eventually, maybe 2 to 3 years after that, the traditional interface will just go away entirely because nobody's going to want to use the traditional interface. And why would you want to build all that traditional interface infrastructure if you don't, only 2% of your website visitors ever switch to that interface and use it? Why would you put that investment into building the traditional interface if you don't need to? Or maybe there's a boilerplate standard theme that is available, but 99% of the time it never gets used. And in that world, where we get to a place where 99 or 95% of your visitors purely interface with chat, brand building becomes really hard in that environment. And I think you then have to do everything off site to get people to your site in the first place, because there's going to be a world where you will have to build brand in places where your potential customers congregate that isn't your website. And we're already going down that path anyway, in the sense that most brands today, they're building their brand on social. They're building their brand out in the real world with events. They're building their brand out with physical stores. They're truly omni-channel. So we're already heading in that direction. But I think in a chat first world, brand becomes harder to build, right?
I agree. And it's, like you said it, we're seeing it. And we just did a case study with one of our customers, and it is all about social. Their whole brand has been built on social media and the way that they're able to engage and interact with their audience there. And I know that they do a lot through social channels just in terms of selling. So they have their e-commerce site, but their brand is purely built on social. And I'm sure their brand will continue to build and grow. And so I agree that they're going to have to think of other ways to make sure that they're staying in front of those customers and having your commerce experience and your site, whatever that evolves to. Because it's like we're talking about it now, and it seems, and we're already seeing, okay, ChatGPT is trying to do more transactions right through ChatGPT, and how Shopify's integrating there, and what Gemini is doing with their MCP. And there's a lot of really fun and exciting things, but I don't think we've seen anyone truly grasp it yet. And we're still in that learning phase, but it will catch up. No different than Google changed how people thought of search and what that did to just general e-commerce sites. It will change how people expect to shop on commerce sites, and it may not be the traditional senses that we're used to seeing now. And you have to keep those audiences engaged in all of these different ways that you may not have thought of otherwise, whether it's store or social or some new channel that gets created because of AI that we're not even talking about right now. And 2 years from now, it'll be the hottest thing. But yeah, they have to be thinking of how do we keep those people coming back and using the products that we're creating and using the experiences that we're providing them.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is you're gonna almost have to get into a world where loyalty is built into your business model. I'm thinking, and not every product or every brand has this, but in the B2B world, this loyalty is part of the business model in B2B, right? It's hard to become a customer of a distributor. It's hard to become a customer if you're a distributor. It's hard to build a relationship with a manufacturer. There's credit checks, there's just so much involved. The onboarding, the custom catalogs, the custom price lists, the, hey, do you want to buy through by EDI, punch out, self-service e-commerce, sales rep, phone, customer service, emailing POs through. There is this, because of the barrier to entry to B2B relationships is so high, they have inherent stickiness built into them, right? And those relationships tend to last for decades, right? So a manufacturer works with a distributor who works with a dealer or is selling products into the trade or whatever it might be. These relationships by definition are sticky and stickier. I think the retail world is going to have to evolve into a world whereby brand loyalty is built into the business model, right? Whether that be through subscriptions, whether that be just by the very nature of a brand becoming more essential to your life. And unless brands can figure out a way to continue to differentiate in ways that you have to, if you want their products or you want those experiences, you have to deal with that brand. And I think that there's literally millions of Me Too brands out there. And I think most Me Too brands are just going to disappear because they're just going to find it too hard and too expensive to acquire new customers consistently enough to keep their pipeline full if they can't retain customers.
And yeah, and we've even though seen it because I agree, like with the B2B side, it's super sticky, and we actually work from a loyalty perspective with a lot of B2B merchants, but it's because there's this still this subset of customers that they work with on a regular basis that have options still, and they say, even though it might only be 1%, 2% of our total revenue that we're driving, right? We work with all these really large customers and we've got contracts and they could only do their buying from us. We still work with these brands, but we got to figure out how we make them sticky. And even B2B starting to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And if they already have that stickiness built in, whether it's because of what they sell, and again, take contracts and all the other things aside from it, you have to be thinking about that as a retailer because that cost of acquisition is only going to continue to go up. I think we're seeing it. I don't remember where I saw the number, but I thought it was an insane high number of what it costs if you're going to sell through some of these AI platforms. So your cost of acquisition is going to go up. So what's going to start to separate you as these people need things or they're thinking of the next pair of shoes that they're going to buy, how are you going to make sure that those customers remain sticky? And it's going to be fun in my opinion to help brands navigate through that and think through that critically. But we're seeing it already on both ends of it where loyalty is becoming more and more important. And it's becoming important in those brands where they've already said, we've got a loyal customer base. We don't need a loyalty program because they're quickly realizing if we're going to stay competitive and we're going to stay relevant, we have to have some of these programs in place, even if it's only serving a very small percentage of our users, because we want to make sure that they're still thinking of us and we can do whatever we can to keep that percentage sticky.
And how do you think about loyalty in a world where almost every single e-commerce website today offers some form of a loyalty program? Not there's still some that don't, but the vast majority do in some way. The problem is that most loyalty programs are undifferentiated, meaning they are just a spend, earn, spend loyalty program. Here's points that translate into a certain amount of dollars. When you spend a certain amount of dollars, you earn so many points. Maybe there's some thresholds, maybe there's some expiry dates, maybe there's some tiering possibly, but I find, and look, I do 95% of my shopping online. And so as a result of that, and I have done for a long time now, I realize I'm an outlier and the vast majority of people on the planet still don't do 90+% of their shopping online. I get that. So I'm weird in that way. Of all the websites that I regularly interact with, the reality is that there, I can't think of a loyalty program today that I'm a part of because oftentimes you just get opted in the first time you purchase with them, you get opted into their loyalty program. I can't think of one today that is so valuable and so unique that I would continue to shop with that brand just because of their loyalty program. I can't, it may exist, but I can't think of it. And even with Prime, for example, I joined Amazon Prime not so much because of all of the amazing things I get with Prime, but mainly so that I can access Prime Video. And so it wasn't so much that I went, oh wow, I wouldn't shop with Amazon if I wouldn't shop for physical goods on Amazon if I didn't have Prime. But now that I have Prime, I will filter results by I'll flick the Prime button first. I'll see if what I want is available under the Prime program so that I get free shipping. And if it's not available with Prime, then I'll go with a non-Prime products. But it's even the vaunted Prime program is not so amazing that if I couldn't use Prime on Amazon.com or Amazon.com.mx, that I would just stopping with Amazon. No longer shop with Amazon. It's not the case. And so I wonder what the world of loyalty looks like in the future, given that a lot of brands are hemorrhaging margin today on a program that actually offers no tangible long-term value to their customers because they're not creative enough to think of a program that is truly differentiated.
Experiences that we have some customers that are doing some really cool things. Some of them are still in the midst of launching, but shifting that, and they still will maintain your traditional, hey, you earn your points for these dollars and you could exchange these points for future discounts, or we're going to have these promotional weekends and all that fun stuff. But I think we're going to see a shift into the experiences that a brand can provide. So you're a brand that does events or that you sell tickets to certain things. hey, you earn these points, you no longer get $20 off. You can get tickets to our event now at no cost. You could bring your whole team to this event at no cost, or you can go and come to a fitting of some sort at no cost. So I think it's the brands that start to think of loyalty as outside of, we're just going to give you points for helping us do these things. We want to give you points for, or you could take these points and turn them into experiences, but these experiences are still part of our brand, right? We're not talking about an experience of, we're going to send you on a cruise, because that, yes, it might be cool, but it's also not going to keep the brand top of mind. And I think we're starting to see that shift with, again, some of our larger customers, where they're saying, we're going to maintain this program, but we also have these really cool experiences that we can provide to customers. They can come to this event that we sponsor every year because they've earned enough loyalty points, or because they're within a certain tier and they've been entered now in to do this. And I think that shift is going to be where the brands that win are going to be the ones that don't just say, hey, you now have 100 points and that's worth $5 off, and we're just going to keep emailing you every 2 months to remind you of $5 off. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that we're helping our customers through right now that I think will start to shape the future of loyalty from its traditional sense to what more can it be. But I always go back, it's just experiences, right? That's all. Every single one that we're talking with right now that's doing or thinking outside of the box from a loyalty perspective is, what can we do to just keep our customers thinking of us in different, unique ways outside of just the discounting that we're already giving them.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in New Zealand, and so I lived in New Zealand for almost 30 years, and I remember Kathmandu's a famous outdoor gear retailer, manufacturer and retailer, direct-to-consumer retailer of branded products. And they used to have they've changed their loyalty program now, they used to have a loyalty program called Summit Club. And one of the Summit Club benefits, and the reason that I joined the Summit Club and continued to renew every single year, was that whenever they were going to have a sale in store or online, Summit Club members would get access to those sale items like 2 days early, including in store. Like you would get a physical Summit Club card. Now I'm sure it's a mobile app, but back in the day, you literally had a physical Summit Club card, and when you walked into store, any promotions that they had, there were certain promotions that were Summit Club member only promotions. And so if you took that item up to the counter, you had to scan your Summit Club card, and then you would get the discount. And the great thing about that is, as especially with clothing, oftentimes the most popular sizes sell out within the first hour of a promotion going live in store or online, and they sell out really quick. And so by being a part of the Summit Club, it limits the amount of people that have access to those promotions. And so therefore you could almost be guaranteed that you'd be able to get like your size, right? Like I'm a very standard size dude. I'm 5'10", like I got a size 10 shoe or a size 11 shoe. Like I'm very standard size dude. And so like my sizes, like a large shirt is the first thing to freaking sell out. And so if you don't want to end up with a 4XL shirt to choose from, then you need to be in early. And so then there were certain promotions that were literally only for Summit Club members. And there were certain events, hikes, guided activities, experiences that you could only participate in if you were a Summit Club member. And to your point, I think you have to find a way to differentiate just beyond getting a simple discount.
Yeah. And even too, again, I'll use like a real example of someone and the way that they're thinking about it is, we work with a lot of brands in the two-way space, but range days, you become in a certain tier, and during these certain times, you can come to our range that we have on site at no cost. So not only am I shopping with you because I like the products you sell and I know I'm getting these points and maybe I'll get dollars off or maybe early access to a discount. But I also know that if I'm local and I want to just go to the range, I can go there at no cost. And I think those are the ways, again, that some of our customers are approaching loyalty is, what other levers can we pull with our demographic that we know is going to keep them engaged, but it's outside of just coming and shopping with us. We're giving you more than just that standard discount, or come here and actually do these things with us, which is also back to the brand conversation, keeping the brand front and center. You're going to show up to this potentially offsite event or something that's completely independent of actually shopping to do something that you enjoy doing. You're going to think of that brand. And the next time you need something, you're going to go right back and shop with that brand. So I think the ones that could, again, not everyone will be able to do it. So it's early access, free shipping, some of these other things you could potentially provide to them are going to be important, but it's helping them think critically of, are there other things you can do? Think of a running shoe store. Are there tracks you can take people out to and they can do fittings and run around the track, but you only can do that if you're a VIP customer. You're getting them out there, you're spending some time with them. They're going to be in that sales funnel now if they're in the market for a new pair of running shoes, other than just having some points and a 10% off coupon to come back and shop with you. It's going to be interesting how it shifts, but I think the way that things are moving, it's going to enable people to do these a lot faster as long as they have the ability to do it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking if you're a golf retailer, for example, you might even be a pretty hardcore golf retailer dealing with pros and semi-pros. You might put on a Top Golf day for your silver tier and above members or whatever it is, and this is an opportunity for people to meet other golfers in their local community that they might not meet any other way because they go to that they're members of two different clubs. But you are the unifying point amongst your community. And if you become the unifier of your community, that is something that stands out in the community's mind, right? Or let's say you sell motorcycle gear, or you're a motorcycle retailer or motorcycle shop of some variety, and you have loyalty member only track days where it's either
Exactly.
free or you get where it might cost you $500 for a track day. Now it costs you $100 instead because we're subsidizing it.
Or you use your points and you can come to this track day, right? You have these points that you don't know what you need for, but you want to come to a track day and be a part of our community. Use your points to come 100%. And again, that's what we're seeing a lot of really cool use cases that customers are building. But golf, I didn't even think of golf, and I love golf. I mean, that what a great, and almost every major golf brand, golf retailer, they do fitting sessions. They do this. They do a lot already to try and engage with you, but that could be a very easy lever from a loyalty perspective where you already have them in that funnel. They're earning these things for these other actions that they're already potentially doing. But hey, Jason, you're a VIP customer. Come to our fitting at no cost. We usually charge $100 for this, but you're local and we're doing one. Let's go and do it. And I think that is I think it's going to change again how people think of loyalty, and it's moving it very far away from, oh, it's great to leave a product review and get some points, and it's great for brands because they're getting more reviews, but that's not going to keep somebody loyal because they get to leave reviews and earn these points. It's going to be some of these things that you could start to do after the fact that are going to keep them loyal and keep that brand top of mind.
Yeah, and I think, look, some of the greatest brands in the world mastered this long before the current crop of new age brands did. Nike famously had indoor half court basketball courts inside some of their stores, right? They said, look, whether you're a Nike customer or not, if you want to come and shoot some hoops indoors, come and use our indoor half court basketball court and shoot some hoops. Come down. It's almost, it becomes almost like a community center.
Yeah.
It might be in neighborhoods where there's no outdoor basketball courts or the weather's crappy half the year. And so by providing a nexus for the community to come in and be exposed to the brand in the process, you don't have to buy to come in and use their half court basketball court. But obviously, if you're exposed to the brand and you're exposed to these new shoes and you're exposed to this new workout gear, whatever, then it increases the likelihood you're going to engage with the brand. Becoming a community focal point, I think, none of these ideas are like, there's nothing really new under the sun. It's about
No.
adapting it to your specific business model.
Exactly. I was going to say it's not, and again, some of it's the shift, right? A lot shifted to online, but like you said, people are shifting back to other means of shopping. It's not always just online now. So that means your loyalty program has to adapt. So it's just adapting to things that people have done, and it's what levers are going to work for your business. Again, if you're a shoe retailer and you want to take someone to a NASCAR event, is that really going to get somebody excited? Maybe, depends on what kind of products you're selling. But I think it's just thinking of different ways to engage the community, bring people together, and reward them in other ways for their loyalty outside of discounts and potentially promotions that you might be running.
And I think brands forget the power of behind the scenes. One of the most popular hashtags on Instagram is BTS, behind the scenes. One of the most popular things we ever did, I was working with a natural health products online retailer, pure play online retailer in New Zealand, and I was actually an employee for a number of years inside the company. And one of the most popular things we ever did was like when we would open up factory tours to our customers, and they could come and see how a natural skincare product was made or a natural supplement was made, and what the behind the scenes, what the assembly line looks like, and what a clean room level facility looks like, and how they control for purity, how they control for cleanliness and hygiene, how they do their formulations and what machines they use to create their formulations. And a lot of this stuff, it's why brewery tours are so interesting. It's
Yeah.
not that you know what you're going to get in the end of it, but it's interesting to see, and why my wife and I love to go to, we live in Mexico and we love to go, we took a tour to tequila, and we took a behind the scenes tour of a tequila distillery, and how they go from what they call the pineapple, which is the basically the root or the base of the agave plant, and how they roast that, and how it goes from that to a bottle of tequila, and how it's aged, and like that stuff, to the people doing it who have maybe done it for 30 years, not that interesting. To people who don't live and work in that industry, very interesting. Like,
Yeah.
how did I want to know when I'm sipping that Reposado tequila that I absolutely love, like, how did it go from this plant that I've driven past thousands of them in the desert? How did it go from that to that amber liquid in the bottle? That is interesting stuff. And so I think sometimes brands, manufacturers, retailers, I think retailers, and this just came to me, I think retailers, if they showed the behind the scenes of how their retail store operates, how they receipt product, how they decide ranges, how they decide where things go in the store, how merchandising works, if they gave those sort of behind the scenes tours of the shop, maybe after hours, okay, 30 minutes after closing, we're going to have a store walkthrough. We're going to walk through our storage room. We're going to walk through our point of sale system and show you how we do all the things that we do, and why it matters, and why we think it contributes to the customer experience, and how we choose the mannequins. And just, I think we get wrapped up in needing to do super flashy things, when
Yeah.
sometimes the most basic stuff is actually the most interesting.
Yep. The day in the life videos, right? You see someone do a day in the life of whatever, and they are captivating. You're like, wow. I watch an athlete, and I just like, oh, okay, an athlete, but this is what a day. But like, you could do that merchandise. I mean, anything. You could probably do a comprehensive day in the life, and it probably will suck people in because it's a behind the scenes, and people want to know more than just what the brand is doing and operationally, and how does a package get from here to here. I don't know if you've ever seen videos like that on YouTube, but it's incredible how just like parcel moves. And yeah, I agree. I think if more people could just lean in on the experience, and again, it all goes the brand, and this is someone that I support. This is what it looks like on a regular basis. I do think there'll be people that resonate with that on a different level, and it'll just build more brand affiliation. And this is why I still enjoy doing stuff with this brand.
Man, I couldn't agree more. Listen, super, super interesting discussion. What is, if you were to look out over the next 6, 12, 18 months, what is high priority for you guys? What new features and functions are coming to the platform? What are your customers asking for that maybe you don't yet do today? Or what other gaps do you see in the market that you'd like to fill? What's high on your priority list?
Yeah, first and foremost is just that ability to enable some of these kind of custom ways that people can create more experience driven reward programs. So there's a lot that we have releasing over the next month or so that's going to be purely tailored to that. So not just converting those points into dollars. How can we convert that into these different experiences that you can actually enable and put on? So that's one of the big ones. We're doing a lot with AI just from a shopping assistant perspective. So going back to how is that going to shape? Because we have a lot of this data already within the platform. Can we even create assistant like tools that help people convert points, maybe help people find products that they might be looking for? So we're going to be experimenting with some things there, but just continuing to do more with AI. Not only how do we maybe recommend certain things or use some of the context that we already have to push people into certain segments or certain promotional groups or certain things from behind the scenes actions, but are there things we could do on the front end that will continuously engage a shopper when they hit the website for the first time with all the context that we have? So I'd say for us, it's just continuing down that path of continuing to automate what we can, helping our brands think outside of the box and do some of these really creative programs that they want to launch, and making sure that we're enabled in a way that they could be successful doing it and they don't have to necessarily hack it together.
Love it. If you could sprinkle fairy dust on the e-commerce industry and change one thing at the snap of your fingers, what would it be?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Dang, I don't know. So if I could change one thing with commerce today, I don't know. I have to get back to you on that one. That's a good one.
That's yeah. I think obviously we live in a world where almost anything is possible. And that to me is probably the most exciting thing. And for me, thinking outside the box, and if our industry could, there seems to be a kind of a two-horse race between what suppliers, broadly speaking, whether B2B, B2C, D2C, whatever it is, and tech. There's this massive divergence between where tech is headed and where experiences are headed. And for me, that divergence has never been greater. And I think if we can close that gap, commerce experiences will be a lot more fun and a lot more engaging over time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I love it. Now, I will drop a link to your LinkedIn profile and your website in the show notes. But other than that, if you want people to reach out to you and have a conversation about all things loyalty, customer engagement, customer lifecycle management, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you could email me, mike.matker@sitevibes.com. I'm very accessible there. We've phone call away. But yeah, LinkedIn, email, any request a demo on the website, anywhere that you come in, just mention you heard me here and I'll be the one that take you through the talk through loyalty, talk through strategy, come up with ideas if you gotta rethink your loyalty program if you already have one. But those are going to be the best ways to get a hold of me.
Love it. Love it. Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. So, Mr. Mike Matker from SiteVibes, what is your question for me today?
So I'll go personal. So when you're not doing the e-commerce edge podcast and e-commerce consulting, what are some of your personal hobbies when you're not working?
Travel, food, international food, walking my dogs in the hills behind our house, riding my dirt bike, and playing tennis. Those are like the biggies for us. But we try to travel. We try to travel as much as we possibly can. We don't have kids. We've chosen not to have kids. And my wife and I, and our one of our life's passions is to travel as often as we can. We just got back from an 8-country trip. We did another 8-country trip last year in Europe and surrounds. And then I travel a lot with work anyway to the US and conferences and everything else. So yeah, we love travel would be probably right at the top of that list.
So if you were given someone that hasn't traveled a lot, one international destination that you would say is, if you're only going one place internationally, what is it going to be?
My most recent favorite has been Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Absolutely
Okay.
incredible. We went down recently back to my wife's family lives in Auckland, New Zealand. My family lives in Brazil, Australia. And on our way back, after visiting family, we came back through Southeast Asia. We did Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia before going to South Korea. And like Southeast Asia is amazing no matter what, but we just found Kuala Lumpur to be really cool, hip, modern, but there's lots of traditional stuff there too. Pricing is just totally accessible for almost everybody. Accommodation was cheap, food amazing, out of this world, variety of food, a confluence of Middle Eastern mixed with Asian style cuisine, just very cool country. The Petronas Towers, absolutely incredible. Architecture there, amazing. Yeah, we really loved Malaysia and we can't wait to get back.
Awesome. Because I don't do a lot of international traveling, but it is something that we do want to do more of. So it's good to hear.
Absolutely. I highly encourage it. Check out Malaysia. Let me know what you think. Listen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing from your wisdom and experience. Wish you every success with Site Vibes, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.